Welcome back to Shelabobby Handmade. My name is Caitlin, known just about everywhere on the internet as Shelabobby, and this is my podcast where we talk about knitting, crochet, fiber fun. I am in a different location. I'm trying out different angles and things like that, so I know that this doesn't look straight, but I'm kind of at an angle. Anyway, it's fine. How are you guys doing? It has been 3 weeks since I last recorded, so I have quite a bit of finished objects to talk about. Not a lot of works in progress, but maybe some new hobbies and a very exciting update on the chickens. So let's get started with finished objects. So last episode I showed you my nephew's socks and explained that he most likely would have them, but I have them here. So they are black. You're not going to be able to see them very well against this dark background, but this is the socks I made for my nephew. I started them on September 22nd and have finished them on October 6th. So I have both here, but only one on the blocker. These are 64 stitches on US 1 2.25 millimeters. These are for Josiah. The yarn is Camp Fiber Yarns in the colorway Just a Black. I did several. I picked out some more. There's the other one is right there. I got several of these just because he's in his I want to wear everything black era. So I grabbed these for him, and these are just vanilla socks, my normal vanilla recipe. Let's see, nothing else really to talk about on those because you saw them last week, or last episode I should say. I just didn't know if I would have them, but I asked him if I could keep them for pictures and still have them. So those are ready to go. The next pair of socks you also saw, by the way, all of my finished objects are socks. Did we finish summer sock camp and I continued to make socks? Yes. So the next finished object is my Echo Socks, which the pattern is the Most Ardently Socks by Kelly Menzies or Robo and Cades. It is a beautiful lace pattern, and these are for my friend's mom, Norma. They are 64 stitches on, I think it's actually 65. Yes, 65 stitches. That's what the pattern calls for the pattern repeat. So it's 65 stitches on US 1 2.25s. The yarn is An Echo in the Bone by Long Dog Yarns. I believe it is Merino Sock, her older base. And yeah, this was a Outlander colorway. I really enjoyed the colorway so much so that I made another pair of socks for my niece. But these are for Norma, so they will be blocked and sent out for Christmas with my friend Rezzy's socks. I started these September 14th and finished them October 12th. So a little bit longer on the needles, but pattern socks tend to linger a little bit just because I mostly like vanilla socks so I can just knit without thinking about it. And most of the time my knitting is done in the car, especially this past 3 weeks. I was in the car almost every weekend, going here and there and everywhere, so I did a lot of car knitting over the past week, and so I have 2 socks, so the other one's just not on the blocker because I don't have enough blockers to put all these socks on. The next pair of socks that is done is also for a friend. These are what I'm calling jingle socks. The yarn is That Stupid Jingle from Yarnaceous Fibers in her Salta Fingering base. The Stupid Jingle is from Jurassic Park 3, actually. The jingle from his phone that alerts the dinosaur. That's what this is inspired by. And you may also notice that I have some new blockers. So I purchased these from Alpaca Direct. I've been using bigger socks, making socks for men, so I needed a bigger blocker, and then I also got a pair of smaller ones. And when they get the medium ones, I think I'll grab those too, so that I'll have other pair for holding medium size socks. Anyway, these are done on 72 stitches, US 1.5, because that's what I make my men's socks on. So US 1.5, which is 2.5 millimeters, 72 stitches, and a men's sock. So larger foot. And I, again, have 2 of those. Just one is on the blocker. I started these October 7th and finished them on October 19th. I keep taking them off the blocker. I'm going to need them on the blocker to record the close-up, so I need to leave them on the blocker. Alright, put that over there. The next finished object that I have is also a sock. So this is the leftovers that I had from the Most Ardently pattern socks. I had like 60 some grams left. I think it must have been a bigger skein somehow. Because I had quite a bit of yarn left over from these. So I made a pair of socks for my niece and still had some left over to put into a crochet blanket. So crazy. These I'm calling my Echo socks. Echo Kate socks. They are the leftovers, an Echo in the Bone. I cast these on October 12th, finished them October 21st. And these are 60 stitches. These are for my niece. So I've been doing, 58 stitches, but I feel like her foot's getting a little bit bigger and needs a little bit more space for the instep. So I went up to 60 stitches, US 1, 2.25, and just tried to use up a little bit more of that yarn. I mentioned that I am using the rest of the yarn in a blanket. I have a crochet blanket if you were here over the holiday season, like December or January, around in there. I have a crochet granny square blanket that I do for Advent and just put all of my mini skeins in. And so I have a blanket for that. I have another pile of blanket yarn or sock yarn for another crochet blanket. And then I have all of my leftovers from socks that are more than 20 grams that will be going into like a jelly roll blanket that will start probably beginning of next year. We'll see. I have a lot of blanket plans and not a lot of blanket knitting time. So that is actually all of my finished objects. Like I said, it's been 3 weeks and mostly just focused on socks, and have just been enjoying making socks. So that's where I've been on that. So let me flip the page and let's talk about whips. Alright, works in progress. In my first bag is from Fat Squirrel Fibers, my Rainbow Ghosty bag, and I have a pair of socks in here. So this is my Roswell socks. Sorry, my yarn is tangled on thing there. So this is the first sock. I'm doing the Rhinebeck Roomies from Kay Litton, or the Crazy Sock Lady. And I just finished the heel flap and heel turn. So I'm ready to pick up gusset stitches and continue on the foot. The yarn, let me make sure I have the month correct. Yes. The yarn is the July Yarn of Enchantment yarn from Long Dog Yarns, and it is the Roswell Incident. So I'll be getting all of the Yarn of Enchantment installations for that collection, and each month she sends a sock set. This one is on her sparkle base, so it's a little bit of a different texture, and I had a hard time picking a pattern for this because it is a very textured yarn. It is her sparkle base, but it's a 2-ply, so it's very loosely spun, so the texture of the yarn is wouldn't do well in any other pattern. Typically I use the textured yarn like this as a vanilla sock, but my goal is to make a pair of socks for my sister in all of this yarn, and each one of them be a patterned sock. So no vanilla socks for this collection of yarn. So I chose Rhinebeck Roomies. That's my default textured pattern just because it can work well with variegated, can work well with solid, it can work well with texture. So the cuff, I did 20 rounds. I'm doing this one a little bit longer. So I did 20 rounds on the cuff, and I think I did 40 rounds, 10 rounds. No, not 10 rounds. This is not 10 rounds. I did 10 repeats. which is 40 rounds because it's a 4 row. I cannot speak. 4 row repeat. So I did 40 rounds. And then normal heel flap gusset, and we'll be picking up for the foot. I think that is all the details I'm using. US 1's 2.25, and yeah, those will be, I have a bag of socks for my sister for Christmas that has all of these Yarn of Enchantments, and so they'll be going in there when that is done. The next work in progress is, again, a sock. I don't have the bag. Oh, yes I do. Found it. It is also in a Fat Squirrel Fibers ghosty bag, and in here is just the yarn and the empty needles because I have finished one today and I need to cast on the other one. So I'm calling these my Juniper socks. These are also for a male friend, so they are on my larger sock blockers. Vanilla pattern, keeping it simple. I did do an Eye of Partridge heel on this one just to add a little bit of pizzazz, but I have one done on these. They're made the exact same way of the 8 days a week socks, the pooling yarn that I used. This is going to that same recipient. So I always say a male friend. Most of my friends are males, and I play D&D with them, or I met them online with, video games and stuff like that. So I don't want to just like give their names out. So that's why I always just say a male friend. But anyway, I digress. Here is the first sock, and then the second sock will be coming soon along with it. Let me find the tag. So this is from the Wicked Stitch, which is a North Carolina dyer, Magda. She is amazing. And this is the colorway This is the colorway Juniper, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And yeah, that is all for that. Alright, let me pile all my socks over there. So that is all of my knitting works in progress. I mentioned that there might be a new hobby. So I have wanted to dip my toe into cross stitch. And I love watching like floss tubes of all these people doing crazy cross stitch. And I don't know, I feel like it's like coloring, but still like textile, and still works with like fiber and strands. And anyway, I've wanted to dip my toe into it. Last year for October, we got a mini pumpkin cross stitch, and I did that one I think in January, and it was great. I did it wrong. I did some crosses one way and some crosses the other way, and so you could definitely tell there was like a different texture in it, but that's the only thing I've ever done in cross stitch. I've done some embroidery, but not a whole lot. Anyway, by the way, Tiffany, if you are watching, don't watch anymore because this is for you and I want it to be a surprise. So I was browsing cross stitch patterns like I do, and I was watching a floss tube, and Emily, well, it wasn't floss tube, it was a knitting podcast, but it's Emily from Emily Makes. She was talking about some cross stitch, and she had gotten a new book, and so I was looking at the artist for those and the designer, and found this one, and I'm going to put the picture here of the finished mock-up, but I found this and I was like, that's perfect for my sister, I'm going to buy that. So I immediately bought it off of Etsy and realized that I had jumped right into the deep end, that this is a pattern or a chart that has no instruction, which I'm sure most charts don't, but it's not a beginner chart, and has a key and some DMC numbers and a suggested ADA, and that was it. So I text some of my friends that do some cross stitch and got their advice on like how many strands to hold. I went and picked up the called for ADA and all of the threads and started. So here is my first official cross stitch. I started this last night and just started in the center. That's like what most of the YouTubes say when you get started on cross stitch, is to fold the fabric and start in the center. So I measured out where I wanted the center of my pattern to be and started on the letters. So here it is. The text obviously is going to say give yourself time to grow, so I'm going to do the grow right underneath here and then start on the mushrooms and leaves around the outside. I got a little kit and, not a little kit, a little plastic container. That's what I was thinking of. Some plastic bobbins to wind up the thread on so that it's easy to access, and so far, so good. I am always curious when people are showing their cross stitch what the back looks like. So if you are wanting to do cross stitch and want to know what the back looks like, here's what mine looks like. I don't know if that's neat or not, but I've always wanted people to just turn it around so I could see what the back looks like. So I will do that here when I show my cross stitch, so that if anyone is curious, this is what it looks like. But anyway, here's my cross stitch. That is where I am on that, and I'll keep you guys updated on this as a work in progress. Alright, let's get into some acquisitions. I do have a larger quantity, but not necessarily a large amount of orders. Mustache Yarns had a 50-gram sale, so on her tonals, and I think she had some self-striping as well, and then she had some just other things that were in the shop that I was interested in. So these were mystery 50-gram tonals, and I've been trying to do more pattern sock, lace work, that sort of thing. So looking for more solids rather than variegated or self-striping. So I jumped on that. So I got 2 packs, which would give you 2 different 50-gram in each one. So some of these have names, some of them do not. They are all on their Perfect Halvesy. This one is the Ritz Halvesy because it is a sparkle base, but this one is named Tickled Pink. This one is unnamed, the blue sparkly one. This lime green one is Jedi Lightsaber. And this one is unnamed, so the darker green. And then she also had 50-gram naturals, so like a variety from natural white to a black in various grades. And so I picked up a natural white, which is called It's Only Natural, because I've been doing a lot of things that needed white contrast, and so picking those up for in the future. The next one that I have is actually a trade, so I'm showing you this because it's a new acquisition to me, but what I did was we had our knit group, and one of the ladies, Lisa, from my knit group, she is making a crochet dragon and wanted a contrast color for the wings and the spikes on the back of the dragon. And she had shown a couple of colors, and there was 2 orangey browns, reds that she was looking at that were close but not quite right. And this was one of them, but she just needed this beautiful blazing red is the only thing I could think of. And I was like, I have that color in my stash. I have the color you need in my stash. So I left knit group, ran home. It's only we live 2 minutes from each other. So I ran home, got that color, and so she said, let's just swap. So I picked one of the rusty brown colors. It's actually called Rusty Nail, and swapped her. So 1 out, 1 in. And so this is new to my stash, but just a swap. And this is from the Wicked Stitch. Again, North Carolina dyer and Rusty Nail. So just swap that out from the reddish brown one to a more browny, autumny orange. The last acquisition that I have is my Long Dog Yarn of Enchantment for October. It is late in October, so I assume you have yours, but if you don't, then please look away. This colorway is called Balloon Fiesta, and here it is. It is a beautiful pastel-y blue with peaches and reds and purples and speckles, and then a yellow mini to go with it. So these will become pattern socks for my sister. I still have to do August, September's, and now I have October's. They're hanging up. I have a IKEA pegboard that is behind the camera, and so that's why I'm looking over there, because that's where they are, hanging up on there, ready to be wound and done. So once the Roswell socks are done, I'll wind up most likely August and September's, and then I'll do October's, November's together, and then if I get December's in time to do a pair of socks for Christmas, then I'll wind that up and get it out. All right, that is all of the acquisitions that I have. That is really all I have as far as knitting content or crafting content to share with you today. Just a small lifey update. If you are following me, you know that I have chickens and hens and roosters and love to tell the story of how they're growing. I also have a bunny whose name is Charlie. She's doing fantastic. If I remember, I'll post a picture here of Charlie. We went to IKEA last weekend, which is a 4-hour drive from my house to get to the IKEA in Virginia. So it's a long trek just to go to IKEA. But if I remember, I'll put a picture here of Charlie in her new tent. I have bought Charlie tons of things for her to sleep in, to play in, to go through, and she hates them all. That is just Charlie's life. Charlie hates most things. But I saw this IKEA tent, pet tent, from when me and my sister went to a concert a couple months ago. And I really, really wanted it, but they were sold out at the time. So I was like, well, it's just not meant to be. But when we went this past weekend, I saw this tent, and I was like, I'm going to get it. She's going to hate it, but I'm going to get it. So I put it together and put it down in the spot that you see it in the picture. And she got right in it and looked up at me like, thank you. This will do. And she sleeps in it all the time. She's always in it and loves it. So it stays there. It's in the middle of the room, in the middle of the kitchen, but she loves it. So she's doing fabulous in her little tiny IKEA tent. And then the chickens, they're doing fabulous. I can see outside my window right now, we got 14 tons of sand delivered on Friday, and we put some of that in this weekend to start getting it in there because it needs to settle down, and then we'll put more in there, to kind of do a deep, litter method for them over the winter for keeping them warmer. And sand dries quicker, so when it's rainy and gross, it won't be muddy and goopy. So yeah, we put sand in there this weekend. Everyone is enjoying it now that it's in there. And this morning, we went out because I couldn't find Shanti, and we got our first little egg. We got our first little baby egg. So this is Shanti's egg. This is the first one that we have gotten. We are, let's see, at 23 weeks, I think. Friday would have been 23 weeks for Shanti. Babs is 1 day older, but anyway, I looked out this morning, and it was like 10 a.m., and I was like, I can't find Shanti. Like, we can see the whole run. And I was like, I can't find her. She's got to be in the coop. So I ran out there because they don't go in the coop unless they're sleeping. So the only other reason would be to lay an egg. So I ran out there, put my boots on, ran inside, opened the door, and she was just hopping out, and this was in the little egg-laying nest that we always tell them, this is where the eggs go. So we have our first little egg. If you are not familiar with chickens, their eggs are tiny at first. Several weeks of eggs will be these tiny little beginner eggs, but the shell is nice and hard, so calcium is doing its job, and they'll get bigger and bigger as she gets older. So I think we have 3 that are ready to lay, and then Barta, she's not quite ready based on just behavioral. But anyway, their coops are omelet coops, so we have several of these little things. So her egg is safely inside the cardboard container there, and we'll probably wait until we get a couple more eggs and then kind of make our first little omelet from all of our first eggs. But anyway, wanted to share that with you guys because I know I've been talking about the chickens and waiting for our first eggs. So, All right, that is it from me. I thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.